What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today. Today we're going to go over a Thavas Premium deck profile, and so this will include with the new stride over here, Furiargus, Dragon, and then of course some of those highlights that I really want to show off in this deck on what these units and other aspects that we can help with this stride, making it a really solid choice and a nice addition to the deck. So I'm going to go over the winning image a little bit, also talk about some of the card choices, and then show off some basic go-to plays as well. So let's get right into it. Next Level Gaming has the new playmats already out for we have Bruce versus Bastion over here. Really amazing artwork, so I highly recommend. We also have the Vanguard Valentine's one, so if you're into like Angel Feather, for example, this would be perfect as well. And in the future coming out, we'll have something with Zorga versus Seraph Snow, so I'm excited for that one too. I'm gonna actually get that one myself too. So you can check out the affiliated link down in the description below and also get a 10% discount on your next purchase. So with the winning image, you know, there are a couple things that the Thavas deck has not really changed much, to be honest, and at the same time, Furiargus does add to another dimension to the deck as well. And so some of you may have seen the stride and felt like it might have been lackluster, especially as a first stride, but with this deck in particular, we're still going to go jumbo pretty much first stride 9 times out of 10, unless you do have a way to set up really well where you went your first grade 3 turn, you did your Lambro shenanigan from the main deck, and then of course G-guarded like twice or something like that to make Furiargus really stand out for that first stride. And other than that, it's gonna scale much more better during the mid game to late game in that time frame too. And again, if you don't know, the skill is that at the end of the battle that this unit attack, you can counter blast 1, flip a card in the G zone, get an Accel imaginary gift, and then of course you stand rearguards equal to the number of cards face up in the G zone, and then of course you can move one of your rearguards to an open rearguard circle and give it an additional 10k. So you can stand multiple units, and ideally you want to stand as many as you can. If you could stand particularly like maybe 4 and plus, you're essentially restanding almost a whole field in essence that can still attack with more aggression. And you may be saying like, why we would even go into this where Alexandros and maybe even Valeos has been a really solid card to finish games off. And I'll tell you why is that as there's 2 reasons. And the first reason is that the new premium collection is now showing off G-guards that get a lot more bigger shield, and in fact some of them are just PG like. Where, you know, if you stack like a Tidal Assault with Alexandros to give it enough power with triggers and its power up, you know, a single G-guard can now guard one of the attacks, whereas it may have taken 2 to 3 cards including a G-guard to stop it. And so that kind of gets hurt. And when G-guards were introduced, one way that Aqua 4 still shine is because we still had a number of attacks to do. So Furiargus shines more because you're able to restand more rearguards outside of what Alexandros does. And rearguards that we have are beaters such as Coral Assault, Pursuit Assault, and even Narissa, to a point where you can really just capitalize on these units, focusing on what they do best, while Furiargus can restand them and also do your attack patterns pretty well in that sense too. It especially shines if your opponent's at 5 damage, because then at that point they have to guard everything, and so you can start equaling like a card in their hand equals per attack in that sense. And so if you can surpass the number, you're in a very good spot in that sense too. The second factor is really what we've seen with Team Link, and this may be because it's just the format of Team Link where you pick 3 different decks and different clans. One of them is Order Colony, and as many people kind of get frustrated with Gerdora on top of what the Order stuff does in that deck, it's just like something that can be oppressive in certain decks. And I feel like Thavas actually shines against that matchup specifically for many reasons. One, because Thavas has a skill where, you know, if you have 3 or more rested rearguards, you can discard a card during the beginning of your battle phase and Superior Pseudo Stride Lambros from the main deck on top of it. And then that's where Lambros, when it's placed, you can choose as many rearguards as you have and stand. So you stand your whole field, including your Vanguard, and still are able to do that Pseudo Lambros turn if you're not able to re-ride and stride and all that kind of sense. So it has that out naturally. And cards like Jumbo and Alexandros kind of suffer too against the Ghidorah matchup because you have Brilliant Blister, so unless you have an Erlusia or something that has resist to stop that, or at the same time you're kind of having a grindy game sometimes, so you may deck out too with Jumbo by just drawing cards, but you're not even able to Superior Call from the deck too, so you get locked out of that. So Furiargus can shine in that, where Furiargus doesn't even have to attack a certain battle too. It could just literally use stride and attack, and at the end of the battle stand as many rearguards that you can, so you restand your board and still have able to capitalize in that sense too. And Mega Colony, you know, as I've seen with playtesting with my friend and of course other people, is that that deck doesn't appreciate multi-attack for the long game. It can really struggle in that sense, so it really shines when using G-Guards at the right time to rest your stuff, and then of course stunning you at the same time too. Another key tip too is with the Lambros grade 4, if you're already on grade 3, you can actually ride Lambros from hand normally, and then his skill would just be able to stand too as well. And then you're still able to stride on top of that, so you can still do Alexandros or Valeos too if you really want to, or you can still fall back to the Furiargus as well too. Now going into the beaters too, just like Coral Assault is 24k and 29k on an Accel 2 marker. You have Pursuit Assault that scales really well with Accel gifts. I cannot stress this enough. Pursuit Assault is even better with Furiargus involved now because, one, yes, it does help with the Thavas winning image going into the main deck Lambros, but once you get to the stride game, you're able to rest units like Narissa, and then Narissa can Soul Blast 1 to restand and give it plus 10k, and that's not once per turn. And at the addition, you're still drawing cards, and then the amount of Accel circles that you'll be generating, this will become bigger than Coral Assault, like sooner rather than later now at this point too, especially with this card speeding up the Accel gifts. And so if you have 3 Accel markers already, Pursuit Assault is equivalent to a Coral Assault. That's how impactful it is. And then once you get that 4th Accel circle, and if this guy is on one, he hits 34k on his own, so he'll actually surpass 2 trigger thresholds on top of that. So this is a beater that slowly can help you win those games and close them out too. And with addition to Narissa on an Accel circle is 13k, but when you use her skill once or twice, she becomes either 23 or 33k. So passing those trigger thresholds per Soul Blast in that sense. And Andre is such a great card where it can go into the soul to fuel for these cards as well, where Cora also helping in that sense too, but also making them a restander in the sense of, you know, stacking triggers on top of them too to make it much more threatening as well. So Andre is a very key component of this to have more aggression, and then of course even on a jumbo turn like first stride, Andre can add value because if you call this as rest, it doesn't matter, you can put it away and to get some benefit out of it too on top of that, outside of like the normal triggers that go into soul or Narissas or Coral Assaults. You know, you have more options now that can make that turn even more aggressive too on top of that. Now onto the card choices. So for the main deck, these are the grade 3s and the grade 4s. We are playing 4 Thavas, 2 Lambros. Again, Thavas is grateful just being able to do the pseudo stride during a grade 3 turn. It has the aggression, you can do 5 attacks easily, and if you pair it up with a card like Wheel Assault or even a restander, you can get 6 attacks in that sense just to potentially win or cripple your opponent during that grade 3 turn while they're at grade 2 as well. And then also it has the skill where you can rest something else to retire something, so that retire might come up as well, where you're making sure your opponent's resources are dwindling, so then it puts them in a position where they have to call more cards from hand in order to make an impact with their field, what their state of field is currently at that point too. And then we have Lambros over here. Like I mentioned, you need copies in the main deck to do that pseudo stride effect. I preferably would rather go 3, but I've been trying out the 2 because it is premium, so you can kind of get away with it too, because you're only going to do that skill most of the time if you go first, and then if you go second, you're going to go into gem mode immediately and really capitalize out of gem mode too. So that's why people tend to have the 2 Lambros too. You could also use cards like Nikki, where you can actually like somehow get this card into the drop zone where you're guarded early on before you get to your grade 3 turn, or discard it somehow, and you can return it, recycle it, soul charge, and then you can now do the pseudo Lambro stride. So in case this guy comes out by a damage or soul charge, or you drew into it, like, it's just really awkward in those moments. So I definitely know how it feels. So it's something that I'm trying out, and if you don't feel comfortable with it, you could always go up to 3 as well. And then of course we are playing the grade 3 heals. Outside of the order colony matchup, this is great still against like other early aggro decks too. So you can minus crit, give power, and once you get to the normal like G-Guard phase, you just G-Guard anyway in that sense. Your G-Guards may not be the best. We got a little bit better too, but you know, they're still greater than just 15k shield. The only thing that it suffers is the Gridora matchup, because you can't G-Guard, so now you have 15k shields to work with. So if you do want to change to the 20k shield heals, that's also applicable. I would definitely understand from that point. And at the same time, if you want to eliminate any other grade 3s to avoid miswriting, that can also be a valid argument too. But I do play the Barragios too, so if you really need to grab that heal for a certain matchup, you can still top 5 and get a chance to search it at the same time as well. Onto the grade 2s, we are playing 12 grade 2s, so we are playing 4 Pursuits, 4 Coral, 3 Dennis, and 1 OG Tidal Assault. And so I'll start with the basics. Pursuit Assault in my book, especially with the new Furiargus stride and the deck moving forward, especially with the metagame that we're dealing with, Pursuit Assault is mandatory. Like, you can try to use Agias, but you are really holding yourself back because you hold yourself with a counterblast, so then you can't do turns without having that extra CB in order to rest units or even capitalize on a Narissa on top of that if you're in the stride turns too. Second, it gets you a draw. So with Aqua Force, you need that draw. You know, it's very important. So it helps you keep having those big hands so you're able to effectively guard, but have enough cards to be able to do a really good turn that following turn. And then it scales really well with Accel circles too. So this is another beater that you can rely to. With Agias, like, you still have to counterblast to get a power up from Agias too. So that's another reason. And this has a continuous skill too, where it's applicable during your opponent's turn. So it just literally says this unit gets plus 5k for each additional rigor circle. It does not say during your turn, it just does it. So this guy will remain big during your opponent's turn. So they had to literally had to have a really big attack to actually try to take it out, unless they have skills to actually remove that card too. So that's another consideration that you can think about. But you know, somebody made a joke during my card reveal too. You can check out the card reveal too. But the in the comment is that it's like NFT assault. I thought that was funny. I don't think it's too bad. I mean, compared to like Macarites, like for standard, you know, this is better than that, at least from what I gather. And shout out to card fighters on the ground to helping me out get these playset right in time too as well. Going into Coral Assault, it's another beater, plus it helps you get more cards into the soul for cards like Pursuit Assault, Narissa, and many others. And because, you know, when you do 4 attacks, it'll go and draw you a card additionally as well. So that helps you maintain advantage, so you can commit cards, be aggro. You could actually commit this grade 2 turn with a Wheel Assault to really make that boom boom, and then they can go into Soul, draw you new cards, which helps dig deeper for the grade 3 Thavas that you may still need. So ride consistency goes up in that sense too, or just something that you can grab from Jumbled Skilled, or moving forward, it's just a beater that you can rely on with the amount of Accel circles that you're generating. So your field is going to easily have enough rear guards for Coral Assault to really get the benefit, the power up too. And Dennis an OG title. So now Dennis, like I've mentioned with my prior deck profiles, it's a love-hate relationship with people. I get it. It's hard once per turn. And at the same time, it's still good to the deck in the terms of consistency. So I do play the Nikki, which allows me to actually check the top 7 to potentially grab a Dennis or a Fava, so that helps with that +1. And even with its own skill, you can rest something in Superior Call something. So you're +1ing from Nikki and Dennis that can help you. One, for the right consistency, but two, also, like, maybe you need to like deny damage for a certain matchup and you might not just attack. So why not get a +1 from their skills so you don't miss out on the drive check in a sense. Or in the later game, when you rest a Narissa for a stride turn, you can capitalize on Narissa still, and then call something else that can help build your board more, which helps cards like Coral Assault. And then of course, if you're on Jumbled, it makes it a lot easier to reach those like 6 rear guards that you want rested, so you get to draw 3 and get the maximum benefit just from that essence. And the OG title, this was a card that I felt like was becoming more necessary because it is still a restand, but it's free. And at the end of the battle, attack Vanguard, you can restand at -5k. You want to use this in the late game, so that way cards like Alexandros can really give all that power to Tidal Assault, and you're benefiting from that. And any triggers you have for August now that can also move a rear guard and give it +10k, and then if it moves to another Accel circle, it's another +5k to work with. So it's +15k for a Tidal Assault that it can really take advantage of. And that's just outside of triggers. That doesn't include if you use cards like Spiritual Body Condensation to revive it and give it a +5k, or other skills that you may have tech choices like Penguin Soldier, for example. And again, we're only playing 1 copy because we do want to see it late game. And if it goes to damage or gets soul charge, eventually it'll end up in the drop zone. So you can use a card like Spiritual Body Condensation to get it back when you actually need it at that point too. So it helps with that too. Now to the grade 1/grade 0 units too. So we are playing about like 13 grade 1s with 2 additional grade 0s over here in the main deck itself. So starting with the basics, we want to play for Nikki because we do want to maximize consistency. Again, you right check top 7, Thavas or Dennis, add it to hand, and then it's other skill you can rest it and then return a normal unit to the bottom deck and then soul charge a card. So that helps recycle Lambros and other key pieces. Maybe you want to get like Pursuit Assault or Coral Assaults, or even like grade 1 shield value for later on in the game too. And it helps with that rest condition for Thavas too that you really need in that point too. And then we have over here Barragios too. Barragios is really the 5th Nikki, just to have with that consistency to help you grab that grade 3 Thavas. Or if you so happen to get the grade 3 Heal Guardian, that's another option too. So that's why I have the 1 Barragio. So if you feel like it's an odd choice, it's the 5th Nikki in that sense. And then we have Nerissa at 3. This card is pretty impactful for not only the Lambro pseudo stride turn, but also in your stride turns, like I mentioned, it becomes the beater. And this card eventually goes into Soul, so it refunds itself if you do use the skill, or if you just call it with Gem Bolt and not use the skill because it does come rested already. It'll go into Soul and draw you a card, so you get more advantage just from the Gem Bolt turn on top of what Gem Bolt already does. So definitely recommend at least playing 3 in that sense. And then we are playing the Warrant Illusia. This is for, like, you know, just having that resist like effect like in front of a unit in the sense. Like when it comes to Andre too, there's Orphea, which is the grade 1 that does kind of the same thing as Andre do, but there's more flexibility. But Orphea has to boost, and Illusia has to be a booster in our eyes, so that way the unit in front that we stack triggers or power up with Alexandros doesn't get blown up with the Denial Griffin or something like that of the sorts. So that's why I want Illusia still key. And then if you have certain matchups that target the Vanguard, you can put it behind the Vanguard too, so that way the Vanguard doesn't get affected too. So this is any unit, which was a trick that I found out in Standard. I'm like, oh, you can do that in Premium too if that ever comes up, but I can't think of at the moment what comes up that targets the Vanguard besides like ping and damage from like Overlord or something. But anyway, with Wheel Assault too, I was playing 3, but I wanted to make room for the Illusia still, so I cut it down to 2. This is one of those like high roll win more cards, but it's also a great target to ride if you know you're going against an aggressive deck, because they're going to give you the Counterblast anyway, so that way when you do ride it, you can Counterblast, Superior Call something and draw a card, or draw a card and then Superior Call something. And then of course the skill that it's like, you know, when it boosts at the end of the battle, swap 2 units for free, doesn't use a Counterblast, doesn't use a Saw, so this is where you can extend more attacks, especially if you're on the pseudo Stride Lambro's turn. You can get to the 6th attack a lot easier that sense, or just in general if you're in stride turns, that may actually pan out pretty nicely too, just if you have a plethora of Pursuit Assaults or Coral Assaults and even Narissas, you might as well just swap them and have more attacks in that sense too. So with Spiritual Body Condensation, you think of it as another copy of your card in your deck, so that's why like cards like Tidal Assault or even like Illusia are fine at 1, because if they do end up in the drop zone, you still have access to it. So blast 1, give it plus 5k, and you could even do this like just increasing the consistency of the missing piece that you need to. So another key tip is that if you do ride Nikki, because you wanted to get the benefit of getting the +1 from Thavas or Dennis potentially, but you still need another card to rest, you can use Spiritual Body Condensation to revive the Nikki, and then now Nikki can rest itself to meet that 3rd requirement if you do come up short in that sense too. So it just helps with consistency of your executing your plays. And then also, if you're gonna restand something, that unit gets plus 5k that can still benefit from that on top of that. So it's additional like powerful additional power that you can take advantage of. And then of course you have Officer Cadet Andre. Andre is Counterblast put into Soul. It's GB1, target one of your rear guards and it gets the red text that at the end of the battle that attack Vanguard, it can resend and gets additional 2k till the end of the turn. So this is where you turn your beaters into restanders. You can make Tidal Assault attack another time, like 3 times in a row. If you happen to have 2, you can make Tidal attack 4 times, and then you can make your other units attack 3 times in total, outside of your Vanguard like Gem Bolt, Alexandros, or Furiargus to restand them again as well. So you're able to really take advantage of those cards. And Gem Bolt target, really great, or you can rest it with like Pursuit Assault, and like you want to rest a Nerissa to get her skill off, and then you can rest this and you'll get a draw and then use her skill to get beefier and restand, and then Andre can go into Soul to replace that Soul blasted, and then you can make something restand such as a Pursuit Assault, making that turn even better, or even into Nerissa too, if it makes sense in that sense too. So it's just a very flexible card. Well, it helps you with your resources, so that way you're not struggling with your like Soul Blast in that sense. You'll realize as you play the deck that Soul becomes even more of an issue compared to Counterblast. But if you're not comfortable with Wheel Assault or some of these card choices, you can play the Penguin Soldier too to help with Countercharge if you're really struggling in that Counterblast aspect in that sense. Onto the remaining grade 0/ triggers we have for PG. You still want to have the PG like effects, so the PG draws are the best choice, so you have more room in the grade 1s. You want draw power too on top of that. Crit pressure with the overtrigger, it's essentially a crit in a sense. You want to be able to stride more as a priority, so that way you can conserve your Thavas in your hand in case you need to re-ride them to build more Accel circles, or if you want to ultimate stride or re-ride for the order colony and matchup. So having max of these stride fighter crits is super helpful. And then with the 3 ones that go into soul to draw you a card, that's helpful with like jumbo turds for most of the time. So that way it's something that you can call and then just get another card into your hand. And then of course you have your Forerunner. You want to do the V runner. If you run Andre as your starter, that's fine too, if you want to make room, but I feel like this is important because it helps you dig deeper into your deck. And also if you go second, you get a ticket shield, which then if you open up with Baragios, then you can like grab something and discard the ticket shield. So then now your hand is like purely Aqua Force quality. So it really just depends on what starter you want to do, but I feel like the V starter is still good to be as your starting Vanguard. So onto the strides, we are playing 9 strides, and so 2 Jumbo's because one, you're going to go into Jumbo most of your games, and the second copy is just helpful in case you do need the second one, depending on the matchup that you may be going through, especially if they heal out of damage. So you may want to play more conservatively, but still apply some pressure, and then also retire some of their field. So a second Jumbo is well appreciated. 2 Lambros because if you do not have ways to countercharge or anything to help you with that, you can also use Gaphilia during a Lambros turn and still be GV2, and then you can use that Counterblast for something else like an Andre to make that a little more aggressive. But if you have no ways to countercharge, Lambros is a good stride to go to just in case. We also have like the one Furiargus. I've been tempted to put a second one, so that might be something that worth consider too. You just have to make the room for it. And so it's perfectly valid if you do play 2, and I already told what its skill does, so it's just a great card in a sense, as a nice addition with our deck. We have Alexandros. It's still one of those cards that we can fall back to as putting the nail on the coffin still. Beefing up regards plus 5k for every face-up card in the G zone and to flip something. So typically if you can have 5-6 plus cards face up in the G zone, then that's where really Alexandros can really help you during that turn to finish too. And then we have Valeos too, where, you know, when an attack on a blast and if you have 2 or more face up, it 11k locks the opponent's Vanguard. So if, again, they're at low damage and you are not wanting to deal with an overtrigger, Valeos locks them out of an overtrigger potentially too. So that's in that respect too. And then we have the Progenitor Ultimate Stride package too. So if you have enough hand and it makes sense to do Bayonera, then you can do that too. Megiddo is just in case if you get Drachma or something, you can still Ultimate Stride with any card. If you roll down to a Dennis, a grade 2, you can pitch a grade 2 Dennis if you have 3 face-up cards in the G zone and still Ultimate Stride in case you can't do anything else. Or that's really the saving grace that I use Megiddo for. Everything else is so much more better aggressively, 9 times out of 10. But we do have beaters now that Megiddo can still take advantage of. So if you're low on card field and everything, you need to revive beaters, Megiddo might be the good place to revive Pursuit Assault and Coral Assaults. So that helps in that regard too. Onto the G guards. I am playing 7 G guards, and you may be asking yourself, that's a lot of G guards, but hear me out with the defensive capabilities. So with Aqua Force, we don't have a pretty much go-to G guard just yet that like, oh, it'll handle this like scenario most of the time. So, you know, cards like Ophelia, for example, are great to flip face up with Jumbo, so that way you can Soul Blast and flip something, whether it be in your damage or regard circle, so you can unlock units too for that Link Joker matchup. But also counter charge, and so that's why we play 2, because you flip 1 and then in case you need it for the second or third battle, it gets plus 5k. So this is your 20k shield during those battles. Ice Fairy over here is plus 10k if it's the first battle, or if it's the 4th battle or more. It's your free G guard that gets powered during those battles, where the new one, Daenerys, is similar in timing, first battle and then 4th or more. If you do the first battle, Counterblast 1, give your Vanguard plus 5k until the end of the turn. Or if it's 4 battle or more, it gets plus 20k shield. So it's a lot bigger than Ice Barrier, and it doesn't care about the regards too, where Ionis does care about that. So that's why I play one of these just in case. And it does use a Counterblast, so be cautious about that. And maybe you want to use the Counterblast for Ionis, because Ionis is Counterblast 1, flip something to GB1 skill, and choose up to 5 regards, and it gets plus 5k shield, and they get resist and all that kind of stuff. So it's our biggest shield when we have pretty much a full board. Even if it's 4 units is equivalent to this card, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. So it helps face-up cards, put face-up cards in the G zone more. So it helps with Alexandros, it helps with Furiargus, all those cards that we really scale up well in that sense. So you may want to use Ionis to flip something and still have the second one to have shield value. So that's why I still play 2 Ionis in that sense. And then of course we have 1 Dismal. So this is the off chance where you can't do Ionis just yet, and you want to protect like a Pursuit Assault or something like another beater. This is great for that respect, and if you feel like you don't need it, you can replace it and put another stride too. So that's another wiggle room that you can work with too. So an example play that I want to show off is, let's say you're going against a deck like the Order Colony deck where you're pretty much stunned. So you went first, you did your grade 3 turn with Lambros from the main deck, and you got 2 Accel circles and your not G-guard, but you guarded with. So you literally can't turn card face up in the G zone in that respect. But if you're stunned and you draw for turn, you have to either rewrite, and so you can either do the regular Thavas and then kind of just like work from there. But I think one of the cool things is that you can ride the Lambros from hand, and then that's when you can like strand all of your units in that sense that are still on the field. And now, oh, camera just went off. Now you have something to work with, and in addition, you can pay the cost of stride, go into maybe Furiargus if you really want to, especially if they have like a grass fort, and you're not sure if Jumbo would be a great start. You can also do this, but you could always fall back to Jumbo too on top of that, and then you can start calling more units where they can go here, let's say Coral Assault, Pursuit Assault, and depending on how you feel, you can use a card like this as well to help you with that. But I would recommend Ursula if you expect that 1 Brilliant Blister to like rest one of the rearguards too. So if you don't want to go balls to the walls just yet, just make sure you keep in mind with that too. So but if they don't, then you can use that skill, Counter Blast, and put into Soul, make something a restander, and you can make the Coral Assault restand as well, because you'll be getting a 3rd Accel circle. So Pursuit Assaults will be equivalent to a Coral Assault in that sense, and so you can start poking at their damage. Let's say you do this and then do this, and then of course with what you have the Coral Assault, get power, and then your Vanguard can attack. Sorry, there's so many cards, and then Counter Blast, and then restand something, get an Accel gift. Where is it? There it is. Draw a card. You can restand the Coral Assault, especially if you had like Andre on top of that, and then you can attack as well as your first stride and also draw something. And then if you had something else that was still standing here, you can move it here as well. Or if you're just going to restand and use the same one, this can go here in that sense too. So there's a lot of flexibility in that sense. If you feel like maybe that's not the right play and you can do Jumbo, you just need to build a field in that sense, and it can be, I don't know, something simple maybe in this setup where when you attack, you have like the 6 rearguards to work with, and then you could just restand the 2 Pursuit Assaults. And so as you can see, there's flexibility on that first stride if you do go against Order Colony in that sense too. Other than that, you just kind of fall back into the same usual pattern with Jumbo, call 2 cards, get advantage in that sense. But if you still want to retire and get advantage, this is still applicable. You just won't get the on-play skill because you can't superior call cards from the deck onto the field. You could only call cards from the hand in general, because you're stunned behind that too. And also, like, as you scale up with Accel circles, like, you'll have a field that's like kind of ridiculous. This is just a front row, so this doesn't include like back row boosters that are off camera currently. And as you really attack, this is all these attacks that they're going to do, right? And in Coral Assault will now get power-ups too because they see the rest of the units. But when you finally attack with your Vanguard, your G zone may have like 4 or 5 cards face up at this point. So you can literally restand 4 to 5 rearguards just like that. And the triggers doesn't matter. And what's really cool is that even if you don't have the Illusion, it still makes you less susceptible to like being stopped by a Denial Griffin. So if they pop this Pursuit Assault, you still have this. Like, you can still push through like this in the sense, and then it goes, even a Coral Assault can see the Vanguard now rested, it'll still get power up, and then other Coral Assaults to follow with in that sense. And then and lastly, these will go into Soul and draw you 2 more cards on top of that. So it's just like the sheer power of this card when it scales is pretty really good with Pursuit Assault and other beaters that you can use. And again, you can use Narissa and Spiritual Body Condensation to power up some units if you don't have any of those, and just kind of go from there in that sense. In the grade 2 game, I just want to show this off because people may not be aware of this combo, and so you can have a setup where you have Coral Assaults and a Whale Assault in a sense, and then if you attack with, like, let's say this pattern, this is the first attack 9, they'll either guard it or just take it, and then your Vanguard can attack. You do drive checks, put it onto this column, and then the 8 plus 8 makes 16, and if you put in 8 triggers, it's 26. Then you use Wheel Assault to swap with this and the Coral Assault that still can attack, and now that it sees 4 or more arrested units, it gets plus 15. So it's a 24k, which goes over a trigger threshold. And then at the end of the battle, since you did 4 battles, they go into soul, draw you 2 more cards. You did an aggressive play, your cards return back, your hand advantage came back, and you may have dig deeper into your deck to get the grade 3 that you need, or the combo pieces for the following turn too on top of that as well. So I just wanted to show that off in case people aren't aware of that. Besides of just having a regular restander to do 4 battles, you can still use Wheel Assault early on to do that play. And that's the deck profile, amigos. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was insightful. And like I said, there's a lot of nuances that I wanted to like highlight because of new Furiargus and some of the cards that we're seeing with G guards in the new premium collection, and then of course Order Colony showing some representation. I think we're seeing it more because it's teams and you have to pick 3 different decks. So it's a really solid deck, don't get me wrong, but I feel like people, as they're getting more concerned about it, I thought I'd point this out in this deck profile in this current moment of time. There's actually still more reveals to be from premium collection as I record this, but I really wanted to get this out for you guys that really were excited to see the new stride, and also how it could be applicable to Thavas in my perspective and what I've been doing too as well. And if you want to see more deck lists, I did a prior video that covers different like Maelstrom, Blue Wave, and even like Blackberg into premium. So if you just want to get like an idea of what this strike can do in different variants, feel free to check that out. And if you want to see the card review, I'll link it somewhere in the description too if you want to see that too. And I do have a combo play where it really shows more combos with Furiargus too. And I do show the scenario where if you do went first as a grade 3 and do the pseudo Lambros and then G-guard it twice, and one of them be an Ionis, I do show that play and how that could look like too, as a first stride Furiargus in that sense, with all those cards already face up in the G zone. So I do cover that. And you know, and if you really like the video, I recommend give it a like down. It helps the algorithm, so that way other card fighters such as like yourself can find this video because it's worth a value in that sense in their eyes, whether it be Thavas, Aqua Force, or just premium in general. It definitely helps a lot. And secondly, you know, comment down below, what are you guys' thoughts too, you know, after like sharing your video, after sharing the video, you know, I love to hear sharing your thoughts. What are some things to consider too? Maybe there are some cards that I've forgotten that may be a good tech choice for Thavas. I love to hear your feedback too. And then if you want to help the channel out, again, you want to level up your gaming, there's Next Level Gaming. They're having a 3 special too, 25% off if you do a team order, in the sense, get 3 playmats. And then at the same time, you can just use my link or the code Commander Jaime to get a 10% discount on your next purchase too. And then of course, if you shop through 50 Card Shop to get those new bundles coming out from the next set and even premium collection, you can go on his website and use the code Jaime to get a 5% discount on your next purchase. And then also, if you shop through TCG Player and you want to get your last cards for Thavas to complete, such as NFT Assault over here, feel free to use the TCG Player affiliated link to help support the channel on top of that as well. And again, you know, welcome to everybody that's relatively new to the channel. We've actually grown over 250 plus subscribers, soon to probably be 300 soon. And then at the same time, we're so close to 2,000. And so if you've already still been in this video long, I will do a giveaway when we hit 2,000. So because I just want to give thanks to everybody too, and then of course the people that also came, but also the people that have been here for the longest too as well. So I love to do that for the community in that respect too. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you know, hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell for instant notifications for more future content to come. On to the next one, amigos. Bye.